Diego in the chest, and it's sad that I know that, you know. But
well, they sort of cooperate though, right?
Maybe Swiper, Swiper knows swiping.
Sorry, Dora jokes. Oh god,
that's what happens when you have little kids. It's inevitable. And then you work on kids games for a long time.
Swiping, yeah. Someone else got it. There are actually two types of columns in the game right now. Someone had asked, I didn't know you could destroy those. There are indestructible ones, and there are wooden ones that you can hack apart in a couple of swipes.
Yeah, so the purple ones that look like they're kind of stone or metal, those are indestructible. But yeah, the rest of the ones that kind of look like logs with blades all stuck in them, you can break those after a few hits. So we probably need to do some visual effects to differentiate a bit better, or also some sound effects. So if you're hitting the wooden one, you get kind of a solid chunk chunk, so it sounds like you're breaking it. But the kind of stone and metal ones should be more like a ting, and we just don't have all of the sounds hooked up correctly yet. And there's a lot more sound effects that just need to be done as well too. I mean, that's just because we're early in development, not because of any other issue.
We've probably got some more people joining now that weren't in when we first got on. So yeah, just to clarify, this is this is called Endless Drop. So there's some people answering in chat right now, but this is sort of infinite dungeon mode at the moment, which will actually be a mode in the final game. It's not the story campaign mode though. So, but what we have right now is where you're just dropping from room to room to see how many you can survive.
Yeah, so the final game will have continuous dungeons like Legend of Zelda, where you can go from room to room. It's all randomly generated, but this is, quick drop-in, play a few minutes sort of mode. And we're also going to be showing this at PAX East if you're going to be out there. We'd love to have you come by the booth, tell us you watched the live stream. We're back to Kickstarter campaign. We'll have some little pins with characters on them and cool stuff like that.
I don't think we set a build to Total Biscuit, did we?
No. Definitely can though.
I'm curious, how far behind are we on the list now?
Actually, probably let me blaze through some questions here because we're getting behind. Warhammers sound cool. Yes, we agree. It'd be cool if a class didn't use weapons but threw in-game items. And yeah, I've kind of been thinking about a class that actually doesn't have a primary weapon, and you have to just run into your enemies, like ram them and knock them into things to cause damage that way. So we'll see. That's up in the air.
We should mention throwing items though. I mean, since inventory management is a big deal.
Well, one of the things we want to have you give you the ability to do is to actually toss items out of your inventory. So if you have like a book that does something, which we haven't determined yet, you could actually hurl the book at someone as sort of a makeshift weapon if you need to. And part of that is that because you only have 4, 5, 6 inventory slots, inventory management is going to be kind of a big deal, so you have to really pick and choose what items you have with you at any point in time. So if you wanted to, you could actually hurl something to give it sort of a last hurrah use before you
There's actually, I can actually, if I can get to a room with bats. Bats are actually so wimpy that I can actually throw a bomb and hit them in midair and knock them out of the air.
Yeah, and actually something that you can't do right now, but I don't see why we couldn't add it, is that you can actually set down bombs as opposed to like charging and throwing them. So if you want to, you could rig up your own explosion sort of thing.
Yeah, we might just do it where if you're standing still, then you just place it on the ground, but if you're moving at all, you launch it. So.
I don't know if you saw that, but a ghost just killed another ghost. That was pretty sweet. I didn't even know that was possible.
Someone said they're a fan of ranged attacks like bows and teleportation as a player ability. So we are going to have bows. We actually have a crossbow in this build, which is kind of an infrequent spawn, so you probably haven't seen a lot of it. But we will most likely have a class that their primary weapon is a bow. And actually this week we're going to be announcing the classes that people will be able to vote on if they back the Kickstarter campaign. So there will be 5 choices, and actually I can kind of spoil a few of them right now. We actually will have the Huntsman with a bow as one of those classes you can vote on. There will be an Assassin or Death Dealer, still kind of deciding on the name, which is basically a ninja. And then there will be a bard that attacks by playing instruments that sort of shoot like sound waves in various directions. So I'll just kind of like hint those 3 right now. But there will be 2 more, so 5 total that all Kickstarter backers from I think it's 25 and up. Am I right? can't remember any of this stuff. Yeah, so 25 and up,
I
you
have
can
a
vote on which classes you want, and we will take the top 2, and those are in the game as sort of the base classes. And that's in the base game, not as a DLC or anything.
There was a question that I saw that was about how are you creating your random rooms exactly. So all of this stuff right now is like that we have in this current preview build are hand designed, but what eventually will happen is where we have layouts and sort of some of the puzzles and stuff like that that are hand designed, but then they will be randomly selected when a dungeon layout is created. So you may see some rooms from playthrough to playthrough, but we're going to have so many of them that hopefully there's not really a lot of overlap. And then as far as like a combat room like the one that we're in here, right now it's just all bats, but you could get a room with the same layout, but instead of bats, it's something else next time, goblins or ghosts or whatever is appropriate to the level.
We'll also be randomizing things like crates and crate placement
Right.
and possibly some of the other aspects of the room. So we're still developing some of those random
And then
algorithms.
on a like larger level, we're going to have some sort of like general gameplay modifiers so that in a particular playthrough maybe it is less likely for you to get stores, or maybe that's just a gameplay difficulty mode or something that we have. So yeah, there's a lot of things that we can do just by kind of setting variables randomly from a set of predefined sort of options.
I hate that whenever you kill the last thing in the room on the pit.
Oh, hey, Craig from Able Gamers is on here, too. How's it
Hey,
going,
Craigums!
You gonna play for a second? I need to step out.
Someone wants wands that shoot other smaller wands.
like recursive wand shooting? Recursive wanding?
Let's see. What are you using for a money sink? Because typically most items are meant to be found, so what will be left over to spend stuff on? So whenever you start a new character, you'll be able to spend some money at a kind of a shop or like an armory within the jail, within the first level, and that will be a slightly more persistent thing, so it won't be as random as the other shops or shopkeepers that you find in the dungeons. So you can spend some money to basically to gear up right away before you jump back down into the dungeon, but that stuff is going to be pretty expensive, so you'll actually want to maybe spend a little bit of money, but not totally gear yourself out.
I also think it's kind of a general rule, like what's in this build, I think it's a little bit crate and pot happy as far as like, well, yeah. So I mean,
we're just money happy.
Yeah, we're just money happy at the moment. So I don't think that it will be typical that you can end the first level and have 1,000 gold pieces or coins or whatever we end up calling them. That you have to sort of spend it well. I think money will be a lot more. One of the things that we want to do is to where you're picking up because you have to. You're picking up shield bits a lot more because we want to make it to where it's important.
Life is precious. The
life is precious, but that doesn't necessarily mean that hitting things is something you should avoid because we hope to have enough, shield shards and stuff around. So yeah, the gameplay on this so far is not really balanced towards that very much at all. So
yeah, and someone said because earlier we were mentioning how the room was really dark, and someone said they could see everything pretty well, and it actually varies on a room-to-room basis.
Yeah,
we want the
as does the scale.
Yeah. So we can dynamically kind of zoom in and zoom out either on a per room basis, or we may do some things kind of dynamically just to make it look cool, really. And we can also change kind of how light or dark a room is. We have some shader stuff set up that controls that. So right now, some rooms are maybe a little too dark. I mean, the one we're looking at right now is pretty good. But you can see when the fireballs aren't flying around, there are some areas that are almost pitch black. And so we're still fine-tuning some of that shader stuff. I would personally like for the light to be a little more kind of smooth and ambient, so we don't have like harsh black areas quite as much. But it just takes time to get all those things right, and a lot of experimentation, because when you have like multiple kind of shaders and textures interacting with each other the way we do right now, there's a bit of trial and error. So yeah, that's some stuff we're going to like really knuckle down and figure out post Kickstarter, so we have a lot more. I mean, we have direct control over it right now, but yeah, sometimes it, like I said, trial and error. Let's see. In some rooms, can you open the drop and push enemies in? Probably.
Yeah, there's
sure.
actually a couple of rooms where I think specifically with the slimes that we have in this, where you can bat them down the drop to defeat them, or just into a pit. Like this particular room, I think the rat AI is screwed up because they all sort of lemming themselves down into the hole.
Someone was asking, is there a way to set the zoom in distance, I guess manually, instead of it being on a per room basis? And so I guess
there could be.
Possible.
Yeah, I mean, all of these settings are sort of exposed at a scripting level, and we've talked about, you know, for the accessibility of the gameplay and just general customization, what of that you can change, you know, sort of as a default. It's a little bit more tricky because one of the cool things about our engine is that it does high definition and the normal definition automatically, and then crops and scales things appropriately based on the screen that you're viewing it, which is how we've kind of got the ability to do multi-platform in one go.
Yeah, but I also wonder if that question was, may or may not be, but, you know, we have been talking to Craig